Before we jump into today's episode, I want to personally invite you to a free webinar, August 25th, the 10 proven strategies to grow a Christian private practice. You might be wondering what it's like to really grow your practice. You're questioning where to spend your marketing dollars, not sure where to get referrals. Maybe you're trying to figure out how do I get faith-based referrals, the type of clients I want to work with. This webinar is for you. So in the webinar, I'm going to be sharing the strategies that I have used to grow Water's Edge Counseling into a thriving, multi-location, seven-figure, faith-based group practice. I'm doing this because I believe in you and I know that you can get there. And so I'm offering at no cost to you the 10 proven strategies that I have used at Water's Edge Counseling. You are going to walk away with practical action steps you can implement immediately. Again, this webinar is totally free, and you're going to walk away being able to do things to help you make money in your business. That's a win-win. Make sure you register. You can go to the show notes, or you can head to wisepracticeconsulting.com, check out the events, and you can register there. And if for some reason you can't make it live, you will get a recording afterwards. But for those that make it live, you might have a cool offer at the end. So make sure you register. 10 Proven Strategies to Grow Christian Practice on August 25th. Now let's jump into today's episode. So have you ever noticed that you're spinning your wheels and your practice is not going where you want it to go? And I hear this from practice owners all the time. And so then they're like, okay, what can I do differently? Where should I invest my marketing? I should hire another person. I should go to a better space. Everything seems like a shiny object that's going to make everything better. Yet you keep doing the things and your practice isn't growing. It's not going anywhere. You have these goals that you've set and you don't understand why you're not meeting them. So maybe you have a good month, then you have a bad month. Things feel inconsistent. And a lot of times we make decisions based on how we're feeling, right? Well, that seems to be a good idea. It feels good in my gut. Maybe I should do it. Or you talk to another practice owner. Well, that worked for me. Or that worked for them. Maybe it'll work for me. So we start moving forward, which is great. I want you to move forward, but we move forward based on what other people are doing or based on what feels good or what we think might be good. And so we're making these decisions, honestly, without a lot of data to back it up, right? Now, when I gave you that word data, did anyone feel eek, right? Like, oh, did she say data? I hated statistics class in graduate school, right? Because data is not always the most fun. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I do kind of geek out on data, but most people aren't loving dealing with data. So one of the biggest reasons, though, I can attest to why Water's Edge Counseling is continuing to grow is because I track data, numbers, research, the true stuff. I don't always make perfect decisions. In fact, you should expect as a group practice, any kind of practice owner, group or solo, you will make mistakes. And the faster you realize that and move through them, the better. If you don't take risks in your business, you'll never get where you want to go. You have to take risks. You have to make changes. What we want to do is do calculated risks. We look at our data and we know how we're going to move forward in our business. That's what this episode is all about. It's about measurements that matter, and what we measure actually produces progress. Like just simply measuring something, you're more attuned to it, you're working on it. So we're going to talk about the 12 KPIs that I want to make sure you're monitoring in your business. So if you're listening and you're like, Whitney, I don't know a thing about data. I don't know how to measure anything. It's okay. You're already doing the right thing by listening. So give yourself a pat on the back. You won't know what your problems are until you start tracking. And once you start tracking, you'll have a better understanding of what's going on in your business, and you can actually get to that growth you're looking for. So when I go through these, I will share a little bit about how I track things. There's so many different platforms and dashboards out there that you can look into. You can head to my website and we have a trusted partners section of the website where you can get referrals, discount codes with people that I love referring to, and some of them have CRMs. Those are like customer management relationship platforms. There are a lot of different ways that we could track things. So I'll mention some of those as we go. But right now, all I need you to agree to is that data matters and that you are willing to look at it. At Water's Edge Counseling, I use EOS, which is Entrepreneur Operating System, which is in the book Traction if you're interested. These are for businesses. Really, it's kind of tailored to businesses that are making over $1 million where you have the infrastructure to put this in place. So we started implementing EOS a little over a year ago, and I have a solid leadership team that helps me. And every single week, we do our L10 meetings. L10 means level 10. I always thought that was so funny that it was called L10, but it's supposed to be about rating your meeting a 10 out of 10, right? So we want all of our meetings to go well. So it's like a meeting structure for effective meetings. And I'll tell you, it's really effective when you get it down. So every week in our L10 meeting, data is part of our meeting. We focus on the numbers. I'm going to tell you what those numbers are in this show, but that has made a big difference. We call them scorecards. It's a way to rack up the scores, right? These numbers are not to feel ashamed, right? There's no judgment here. These numbers are to create conversations and growth, to create strategy in your business. So when someone on your team or yourself is upfront and honest with where things are, that's when you can have success. You can't expect your practice to grow if you don't know what the problem is. Or if you're not able to see, here's where I was, last quarter, and here's where I am this quarter. So let's go ahead and get started on the 12 KPIs to track in your practice. The first one, I have them kind of in sections here, but the first section is intake. Y'all, I love the intake process, so I do kind of get excited on this section. The intake KPIs are the number of intakes, the conversion rate, and the no-show percentage. Let's dive into each of these. You should know quickly what the number of new intakes are in your practice. This shows us if growth is occurring, right? You can put all your time and money into marketing, but if you don't know if people are actually converting to call, it doesn't matter. You can have the best looking website out there, but if you don't have a good call to action to get people to actually, take action, then you're not actually getting anywhere. This is your first indicator, is that you're tracking how many intakes are coming into your practice. If inquiries start to drop, we know that your revenue will drop with it. And you can kind of see where revenue is going based on how many intakes. So if we have a slew of intakes, we know that 3-4 weeks from now, that should really grow, right? You don't want to wait until your schedule is empty to start tracking these things. You want to notice it in advance. That way you can invest in your marketing. Along with new intakes, we specifically track who's getting them, making sure that we understand how to fill our caseloads for therapists. A good rule of thumb, by the way, is if you have a group practice and you have a therapist who's full-time, so maybe 25 clients or more a week, they should be getting about 5 to 6 intakes a month to stay full. A lot of group practice owners ask me what I should expect with that, and that's a good indicator. We also have a kind of a way that we fill up caseloads when someone first starts at the practice. So we try to get them 5 clients their first week, or 5 to 10, 3 every week after that. So tracking the number of intakes, we specifically track those per therapist. But number 1, KPI, track your number of intakes. Number 2, intake conversion rate. So it doesn't really help you if somebody calls and doesn't actually become a client, right? And not everyone that reaches out. And when I say call, it could be whatever method you have. That could be calls, contact the website, schedule online. Maybe you do consult calls, website inquiries, social media inquiries, all the things, right? By the way, if you want to take it to another level, track how people are reaching out to you and the conversion rate on the way they're reaching out to you, okay? But let's not dive too deep yet. I want you to track conversion on your inquiries total. So how many inquiries actually became clients? Benchmarks for you to use. If you are a private pay practice, I would love for you to be at 50 to 60% conversion rate. Not many practices are. A lot of people sit at 30 to 50%. If you think about it, 30%, That means only 3 of every 10 people that call convert. Now, you might be thinking, I'm private pay, Whitney. This is normal. It doesn't have to be that way. I have consulted practices for years and I can help you get to 50. There is a whole script and way to do it. Actually, in fact, I have a course on my website if you're interested, how to build a private pay practice in insurance-based world. And it walks you through a video course and a workbook to go from getting those conversion numbers up and how to talk about insurance. So if you're looking for a course on that, head to the website and look at the products that we have on Wise Practice Consulting. The conversion rate for an insurance-based practice, I want to see that at 70 to 80%. Okay, so if your numbers are not there, you need to go back and work on your scripts and your conversions. That's a whole nother training. But I want to make sure you're tracking it. So how quickly are the calls being returned? Are people actually answering the phone when the phone rings? Are you handling objections? Is your intake process going smoothly? So many practice owners tell me, yeah, I set my practice up with Google Ads. And I'm like, well, that's great. But if you're not converting people, you're wasting your money on your Google Ads, right? You can actually make money in your practice just by doing further training, just by creating a call script for your team. So you want to make sure that you do that. The third KPI is the intake no-show percentage. So the person called, you tracked that. They converted, you tracked that. And now did they actually show up for their intake? The average practice no-show rate is 10% or less. And I want you to aim for that. Even if you could get to 5%, that would be excellent. If the numbers start to climb and you see that people are not showing up for their intakes, you need to look at how to fix that. A couple of things that we do is reminders, confirmations, make the scheduling process as easy as possible. We have the therapists reach out to the clients in advance to introduce themselves, making them more likely to show up. And the expectations are discussed before the first session. We do that usually at the time of scheduling or on the intake call. So make sure you're tracking your intake no-show percentages. So for intake, conversion rate, for intake, it's number of inquiries, conversion rate, and no-show percentages. Now let's move to marketing. Google Ads. Did your Google Ads bring in clients? Y'all, you are spending money on your Google Ads. I don't want you to just trust when someone emails you and says, hey, here's your cost per click, and here's the percentage, and here's this. It is great. It's great to know those things, and you can see the growth. But I can't see if these people actually became clients, right? So I could have the best Google Ads statistics, but if I'm not actually getting clients, it doesn't help me. I think this is particularly important for a private pay practice because I have found Google Ads, and another expert could say something else, but I have found that Google Ads are less effective for private pay than insurance-based practices. But with the Google Ads, we have a spreadsheet that we track all this, the number of Google Ads that come in for intakes, the number that reach out, the conversion rate, and how many sessions they actually attended, right? Because I want to see what the financial value is of that client. And you also have to think about everything you spend to have that client, right? So I have to pay payroll for the therapist that works with the client, overhead for those things, the admin fees of scheduling the client, all that kind of stuff. So if someone came for one session, that's not really helpful, right? The Google ad is going to end up being more expensive than the money I make. But if someone comes in for 2-3 months, that's a different story. So you want to determine the value of the advertising dollar with your Google ads. Next one, Google Search Console. This is one of the most underutilized free tools available through Google. You can go online and just type in Google Search Console and set up your account. It will track with your website. You can watch things like average Google positioning. So that's your position on Google pages. If you're in the top 10, you're on the first page, 11 to 19, or maybe 20. Second page, and it continues, right? So you want to get in that first page of Google when they look for certain keywords for you. You can look at the impressions. That's how often you're kind of popping up, what keywords are working, what clicks are happening. And so by using the Google Search Console, you can know if your efforts for marketing and SEO are working or not. Most practice owners just don't even look at it. We look at it every single week to make sure that our website is going where we want it to go. Google Business Profile, number 6. Most owners are not paying attention. They set it up and that's it. You've got to monitor it and you've got to be posting on it to make it work. but you can check lots of statistics, and we check both of my locations on a regular basis. Profile views, website clicks, phone calls. If the numbers aren't changing, it's often an indicator that something else has changed in your marketing. So the Google My Business is going to help with your local SEO, which is really important for people finding you. And you want to make sure you optimize your Google My Business. So your location, pictures of your building inside and outside, information about your practice. So make sure you're monitoring your Google My Business profile. All right, we did intake, we did marketing, and now we're moving on to financials, the financial KPIs in your practice. Yes, these are important, and I want you paying attention to them. The first is revenue. The revenue tells the story of your practice. I don't want you to just compare month to month. That can get a little challenging. Oftentimes, I compare revenue last year to this year, right? Because private practice is up and down. What I get in July is very different than what happens in October or November, right? So I like to look at July last year and this year, and then I like to look at October last year and this year. So it's looking for those trends. I like to look at the year to date and where we're going and those seasonal trends. This helps us make action and identify patterns. It helps us prepare for the year and what we need to save for and what we need to be prepared for. And it makes it less of an emotional decision. A lot of times, practice owners, we see a number and we feel an emotion. Let go of the emotion as much as you can and let your decisions be data-based. So the first KPI is revenue. The next one, if you are a group practice owner, and even for solo practice owners, payroll, because you might be having payroll as a solo practice owner as well. Payroll is almost always your biggest expense. It's one of the numbers that you need to pay super close attention to. And when we talk about payroll, we're not just talking about, the hourly rate that we pay. Payroll is more than that. Payroll is your tax, payroll tax. It can be your health insurance, retirement matching, if you have other benefits rolled into your payroll. And this is something that I really like about the Profit First model. Profit First is a method for helping us understand how to track our money. And it teaches that healthy payroll percentages shift depending on the size of your practice. So instead of saying it's always going to be, 45%, I know that the larger your practice, your payroll percent actually increases rather than decreases. So as your practice is growing, payroll is more and more important to watch because more and more money are going into it. And so you need to make sure that you're paying attention to that. When payroll begins to increase faster than your revenue, or the percentage is too high, it's time to ask yourself why and figure out what changes you need to make. I really recommend the book Profit First for Therapists by Julie Ayers from Green Oak Accounting because it will be specific to practice owners and it goes through what payroll percentages you should have based on your size. So I have always used it. I use the Profit First method and I can't recommend it more. Okay, number 9. Operating expenses, your OPEX. Again, OPEX it's with Profit First, your operating account. But revenue can grow while profits are shrinking and you're thinking, what happened? That's why you need to watch your operating expenses. Your operating expenses should be a percentage, right? And the larger your practice, the smaller the percentage it would be. And so that's a good number to look at in that book. I'm not going to go through all the numbers here and the percentages there, but you want to make sure that your operating expenses stay in a certain percentage of your revenue. And if that changes, that's a good indicator that you need to go and look at, okay, what happened here? What was the issue? Or maybe you need to get rid of an expense to be able to bring on an expense, something like that. Make sure that your spending is supporting your growth. Okay, now we're going to move into the next section of KPIs, which are therapist KPIs. So you can do this for yourself if you're a solo owner. You can do it for your group practice if you're a group practice owner. Every therapist should have a number of clients they're expected to see, right? So when I hire someone, I say, hey, full-time 25 clients a week. Or, hey, if you want to do 20 a week, we discuss that in advance. It's not just a feeling and they just decide when this week I'm going to see this many and this many and this many. Like they're expected to hit a certain number. We want to track that and see what's going on. It's not always a performance issue, but if we track something over time, then we're concerned, right? One thing that we look for is when a number is off for at least 3 weeks in a row, that's reason for concern. So if one of our therapists is expected to see 25 clients a week and they drop to 18 or 20 for 3 weeks in a row, we check in on them. And it's not to wave a finger, it's to say, is this what you want? Like, you have told us you want to be full-time and you want to see 25 clients a week. So if you don't want that, we can have that discussion about that. It really impacts everything. It impacts your revenue, the marketing, how to schedule clients, getting people in that need help, the confidence of the therapist, cancellations. So make sure that you're looking at the number of clients each therapist has, and that's their scorecard metric. The next is churn rate. Churn is the ability to keep clients. So when we churn them, they move out. So we want our churn to be low. A good rule of thumb is 30 to 40%. That means therapists are only losing 30 to 40% of their clients by session 4. We try to get them all the way to session 8, but we track churn first, which is getting to session 4, and retention is the ability to keep a client. We track that to session 8. But right now, we're just going to focus on churn. So if we see that clients are consistently not making to session 4, again, it's not to wag a finger at a therapist. It's to say, hey, we are noticing this trend. Let's work together to improve it, because we know that clients get better when they show up for therapy, right? So you want to make sure you're tracking that. You want to set that expectation. We do it in the interview. We talk to the therapist about how we track this in the interview, because we want clients to have a good experience. We want to also pay attention to the therapist fit, make sure in the intake process we're discussing that, therapy is not a one and done thing. We're explaining clinical approaches in the first sessions. While we're doing that, we're assessing therapeutic fit with clients and creating homework and follow-up. In fact, at our practice, we do a whole presentation on churn with our team, and we do it every single year. So, because we can all make improvements in how we work with clients and keep clients. It matters, because that's how clients get better. All right. And last but not least, number 12, the average length of stay. This is the stay for a client in your practice. It's one of my favorite metrics because it reflects the clinical care that we are providing, and also the health of the business. When clients are staying longer in sessions, coming for more sessions, we know that they have had a meaningful experience and gotten better in therapy. Research shows that most clients don't get better in less than 4 sessions, right? We really want to get them to 8. Really, I think 3 to 4 months is like the ideal amount of time where a client came in, they connected, and they had improvement. Of course, we have a lot of our clients that come for years and continue to have improvement. So you want to track that average length of stay in your practice and work with your team to understand why long-term therapy is helpful and good for the stability of your practice, and really emphasizing that this isn't just about the money, even though money is important and that's how we run this business. That's how we all have jobs. But being able to keep clients in treatment is a win for the client, for the therapist who doesn't have so much turnover and work they have to do, but also for the practice. Now, I've given you a lot of different things to track in your practice. These are the most important ones that I would consider. There are lots of softwares to do this. You, in fact, could create your own dashboard if you wanted to and track all these things. I know that TheraSAS also has some really great ways to track these things in your practice, and I've used that dashboard before. And then another one that I really like is called 90. Yes, the number 90. And that's what I use in my practice. It does go along with EOS, and you can kind of create your own structure for tracking your data on there. There's a lot of great CRMs. Therapy Flow has one. Productive Therapist has one. I could go on and on about all the different ways in dashboards, but there are out there. So make sure that you find a way to track and that you start tracking. We talk about this in the membership community consistently. In fact, I have forms that people can use to track their intake data and look at it. So if that is something that you're interested in, joining the membership community, we will be opening that up at the end of August, and you would have access to tracking all these things and so much more. So I want you to take this episode and think of one thing, even if it's just one, that you're going to start tracking in your practice. Or maybe it's that you decide that you want to be a part of the Wise Practice community. because that is where we talk about this stuff on a regular basis and we help each other grow. And there's accountability there. And you can meet with other practice owners and say, how are you tracking these things? What are you using for that? Knowing what to track is not just the hardest part. It's having that consistency and accountability to do it. And that is why Wise Practice Community exists. So in the community, we have weekly consulting, practical trainings that you can watch on your own time based on your phase of practice, course catalogs. You have accountability groups with practice owners in your phase of practice around the country. We are opening the doors August 26th through the 28th. We only open it 2 to 3 times a year because I want you to come in together as a cohort and get to know one another. And I will be involved in your growth process. I show up almost every single week in the community and hang out with you guys, teach you guys, and we all talk and grow together. But if you're listening and you're like, I don't know about all this community stuff. I've heard you say that, Whitney, but I'm just not sure. Join me for the free webinar. It gives you a taste of what it's like to get the trainings that are in the community. So remember that free webinar, August 25th, the 10 proven strategies to grow your Christian practice. It's a great way to gain the strategy and experience what Wise Practice is all about. Thank you for being a part of the show. I love spending time with you, and I look forward to continuing on this series in your private practice.